in pursuit of health and wisdom. Sapio with Buck Joffrey.
Hey everyone, it is Buck Joffrey here with Sapio. I don't know if you're headed out of the country this summer, but I am. I'm headed to South Korea and Japan next week. I love to travel, but I got to tell you one thing I don't love, and that is jet lag. So, what is jet lag anyway? Jet lag, otherwise known as desynchronisis, is essentially a disruption to your circadian rhythm. In other words, your biological clock doesn't match up with the clock of your destination. So, when you have that feeling, you feel tired, your memory gets all jacked up, you get mood swings, and even constipation. So, if you want to be an international jet setter, that's not really a good look. So, why does this happen anyway? Well, your body relies on day and night signals because different things happen at different times in your body. So if your body doesn't know what time it is, then it gets confused. So let me give you an example of that. There's a hormone called melatonin, and it's released by the pineal gland, which is in your brain. And that is released as your bedtime approaches, and it helps to make you sleepy. It relies on daylight and dark cycles to regulate itself, but it can't do that immediately. It takes a few days to adjust to a new schedule. I'll get back to melatonin in a few minutes here, but that's a big topic in and of itself. But here are some other basic tips about jet lag and things that you can try to do to make it less painful. Ideally, what you want to do is set your clock to the destination time ASAP. Now, what that's going to do is help your brain get adjusted to the new time by giving it a new reference. Your brain's going to adjust itself, but giving it cues like this is going to make it happen a lot quicker. Now, here's another tip. If your long flight leaves in the middle of the day, try to fall asleep earlier on and then try to be awake for at least 12, maybe 14 to 16 hours before the time that you actually want to be asleep at your destination. Now, the next one's a tough one, at least for me. There's some pretty good research out there to suggest that fasting during a long flight can reset your circadian clock quicker and minimize jet lag. Specifically, a 12 to 16 hour fast can potentially suspend your circadian rhythms because your body thinks it's starving and tries to conserve energy. Now, I'm headed to Asia on Korean Air, and the food is supposed to be pretty killer, so I'm not sure I'm going to do that, but at least you should know about it yourself, and maybe you have a little bit better willpower than me. Now, when you get to your destination the first morning, you've got to get yourself outside early. Bright light exposure is really important to resetting your circadian clock. Try to exercise or walk for about 20 to 30 minutes outside to get your brain to understand there's a new schedule. When you're out there in the morning, don't wear sunglasses. Getting the full impact of the sun is going to help your circadian cycle to adjust. And it's also going to help decrease the release of melatonin, which might make you sleepy. Now, if you got a nap, go ahead and do it, but don't do it for more than 20 to 30 minutes or so, as it's really going to slow down your adjustment altogether. Okay, so now let's talk about melatonin in more detail. Melatonin is a hormone released by the pineal gland in the brain. That's why it's sometimes called the vampire hormone, because it comes out only at night. And as I alluded to before, it signals sleep time to the brain. Melatonin is the key to the body's sleep-wake cycle, and its production increases in the evening with darkness to get you sleepy and then turns off during the day. Okay, I'm a surgeon, but don't take what I have to tell you next as any kind of medical advice. It is just information that I'm going to use myself. For travel in general, it's best to take melatonin not on the plane, but on your first 5 evenings in your new destination. However, there is some evidence that taking it on the day of travel at your new ideal bedtime might actually be useful if you're traveling eastward. Now, you can do the math on that, but it makes more sense because you're trying to get to bed a little bit earlier that night. Personally, I think using melatonin for travel is not a bad idea at all, but what I am concerned about is people using melatonin as an ongoing sleeping aid when it's not traveling. Why? Well, again, like I said before, it's a hormone. And hormones have feedback loops. In other words, if you start taking it all the time, it may screw up your body's intrinsic ability to regulate its own cycles. And messing with your hormonal feedback loop systems is asking for trouble. So what I'm concerned about is people taking it all the time, the same way I would be concerned about people taking estrogen or thyroid hormones without being monitored closely as well. So there's also some research suggesting that there might be some other negative effects of chronic melatonin use, such as decreased function of the hippocampus. the hippocampus is the area of the brain that is involved with the formation of new memories. In rats, chronic melatonin use is actually shown to shrink testes, and no one wants shrunken testes. All this is to say, I don't think it's a good idea to take melatonin every night, and ideally it's best used for travel. Anyway, I'm off to Japan myself now, so I will let you know how those tips work out for me, although I'm probably not going to fast. You've got to live a little too, right? That's it for this short medical update. This is Buck Joffrey. Check out my new podcast, Sapio with Buck Joffrey, and make sure to like, subscribe, and share to spread the word if you like what I'm doing.